Hi, welcome. Julie in Michigan here, reading to you again tonight. This is the continuing story of the Poisoned Pen Pal, book 1 in the series, The Kendallville Librarian. This is 1908. We're going to start with chapter 12. Lydia is speaking. Departure day. Saturday morning. Mrs. Beasley allowed me to use her tiny kitchen to avail myself of breakfast preparations before my early morning departure. Mr. Bradley said he understood when I gave my notice, but he didn't make an offer to convince me to stay. Breakfast was light fare on weekends, since the boarders usually wished to take the opportunity for a bit of variety to their otherwise repetitious breakfast menu. Mrs. Beasley said she would arise as she always did and start the fires, but I didn't think it was fair for her to rearrange her schedule to fit my early departure. I really don't see why you can't wait for a decent time to leave on your journey. It will not be light outside for some time. No one stirs at that early hour of the morning. Why must you go before the rest of the world awakens? Mrs. Beasley asked before retiring the night before. I will have a long journey ahead, and if I can reach my friends before nightfall, it would be best for my sleep. It could take much longer if the weather worsens or I run into any unfortunate occurrences with my horse and wagon. I started a fire in the stove and filled a pot with water. The canister provided an allotment of coffee. I chose a glass jar with a crocheted jacket to bring an extra share with me, enabling my brew to stay warm as I drove out on this cold early morning. The coffee pot we had used on our journey here last year was already in the wagon. I was gathering some kindling I could use to start a small fire, enough to warm water, when Elizabeth slipped downstairs in a robe and slippers. She watched briefly and asked me to visit her room before I departed. That's good. Ginger peach from Republic of Tea. It's an indulgence. I know it's a little on the expensive side, but it's so good. All of my clothing and belongings were in the wagon. I retrieved from Kane's the night before, along with the extra blankets and feed for my horse. To firmly establish the sequence of events to follow with the townspeople, I alerted the liveryman that my cousin would soon arrive with hopes of settling here. After a piece of warmed bread and butter with a spoonful of jam interspersed with sips of hot coffee, I washed up my few dishes. Filling the jar I would bring with me, I allowed it to reach the brim. Bread and a slice of ham for my journey lay on the table by the front door where I set the coffee I would bring with me. It was time to say goodbye to Sarah. Knocking before entering was a change, since we usually allowed a small tap, followed by a turn of the handle on the door. After my scandalous entrance that scared her, I didn't want to startle her again. Not knowing how to restore our relationship to the comfortable peace we held previously, I questioned what I could do to restore Sarah's feelings of safety with me. I felt a deep hollowness in my chest and tears that could flow at any moment. Sarah called for me to enter. She was standing by the window, no longer in her nightdress, rather prepared for the start of her day, although her eyes were red and swollen. I stood in the doorway and waited for her approach. She watched me from a distance. I finally said, "I think I have everything." I could barely hold back the tears, and speech was difficult, but I didn't want to spoil my departure this morning with a weepy farewell. I considered briefly what it would mean to give up this idea, to continue my life as a woman in this world with the privileges afforded to one gender and not the other. It would mean continuing my day's work underpaid and not likely respected. I would face the possibility of contracting a commitment to be a manservant and watching Sarah do the same. Those thoughts were quickly dispelled. If she would not change her way of thinking, I would not consider how I could stay here and watch her with another. Elizabeth, perhaps living with them or being parted from Sarah forever. Sarah crossed the room and placed both arms around me, her cheek touching mine. I could feel the warmth of her body and the love that radiated from it toward mine. After a few moments, she pulled away and turned her face to the side. I'm ready. Do you care to walk with me to the door? No, I think not. No one should wake up early to see our parting. I will stay here and wait for your return. I nodded, but feared I could not pull myself away. It was best she stayed here. I understand, and I will return soon, perhaps in a few weeks' time, if not sooner. I hesitated and reiterated, I hope to make you my wife. She looked shocked, as though she had not heard such talk from me the night previously. She then asked the most important question, apparently on her mind. Oh, Lydia, my dear friend, whatever will I do if I do not have you as my closest friend? I let loose of the breast that I'd been holding. I felt a rush of warm relief fill my body. She felt as I did. I had not been mistaken. I wanted to assure her. You will not lose my friendship, Sarah. We can have a marriage where we are both man and wife and also best friends. This will not be as a man would have it. We will remain good friends always. That will not change. I grew concerned with the approaching daylight. I promise you I will not change my feelings for you, and we will spend as much time together as we always have. Perhaps not immediately, but with time, the townspeople will forget me. They will only remember you as having been the town librarian before being swept away by a handsome cousin of your childhood friend. But I must ride on now. I want to be gone before the sun rises. A faint light was coming from the east. Turning toward her for a last look before leaving the room. Sarah was looking away and did not turn to glance my way. I entered the hallway and shut the door quietly behind me. It was time for my journey to begin. Chapter 13. Sarah, February 19th, 1908. On the following Saturday, as I prepared to venture out for my weekly errands, I pushed thoughts of Lydia in a man's attire from my mind. The images insisted on returning and had been lingering long after she modeled her outfit for me. Her appearance returned to my mind, and with it warm feelings arose in my chest and stirred in my loins. I had looked into her eyes, same as before, but there was a boldness, more so than at other times. Lydia was always forceful, but her strength seemed to have multiplied with her change of clothing. What would I do if I felt this way every time I looked at her when she returned as a man? I didn't want to think. It was surely unnatural to have those thoughts when I looked upon a woman. But would she still be a woman? Her suggestion of bringing Elizabeth to live with us as part of her plan nagged at my mind. More than anything, I wanted my daughter with me. But if they found us out, it would be worse for the little one. But if we didn't get caught. I had 1,000 more questions to wrestle, but they would have to wait. It was Saturday morning, and I had errands to run, including a stop at the post office to drop my weekly letter home and purchase a few stamps in case the postmistress ran out again. It was difficult getting supplies into town with the weather as it was. It would be a short hours at the library today when we opened at 10 and closed at 2. I hoped Lydia was at Ma's by now and safely tucked away in my old bed. Our plan was for her to send a letter when she arrived. She would sign the letter as her cousin's name, Lawrence. That would be the name she would write on the back flap of the envelope. When I retrieved the letter from the post office, I would have evidence of his coming visit. Plus, I would know that she had arrived safely. When I stopped on my way to the library, Millie was opening the window between her perch and the outer office. Good morning to you, I said as I shook the snow off my coat before coming closer. I've got 2 letters from you. One from your mom and the other from someone named Lawrence. I smiled, feeling the envelope from Ma, knowing she had included some of my daughter's artwork. The letter from Lawrence verified Lydia's safe arrival. She'd been gone a week. Brushing my face to clear some of the snow from my lashes, I inquired about Millie's mother's health and learned that there had been no changes. As I turned to leave, she said, "Be careful out there, don't slip and fall." "I won't, and you have a pleasant day." Temptation arrived as I stopped at Amanda's bakery. She baked the best cookies. "I'm meeting James today." Her voice could barely contain its excitement as she blurted out after the last customer had left. Her brown eyes were bright and her skin was aglow. Luckily, we had a moment alone in the shop. "I'm so happy for you. I hope he is everything you hoped for." She raised her eyes to the ceiling and shivered as she once again extolled his virtues for me. I listened for a few minutes and then shifted my gaze to the glass counter between us. "What are those delectable morsels?" I asked as my focus turned to the especially delightful plate of cookies. "I baked these chocolate chips with pecans this morning." "You can wrap me up 2 of those." Too late, I remembered. Lydia was gone. My habit of always preparing to share treats with her would need to change. I didn't wish to call attention to my plight, so I refrained from changing my order. "Lydia's gone?" she asked as though she had read my mind. I floundered to speak the lie that we had planned. "She has a sick relative further away than Coldwater she must take care of. An elderly aunt has taken to her bed, and it falls to Lydia to care for her. I hope for her safe return." This seemed to satisfy Amanda as she wrapped my order. After paying my bill, I shared a compliment. "You look most attractive this morning, Amanda. I'm certain your gentleman pen pal will be pleased to look upon you." She looked out the window as she spoke before turning back to me. "It's him I'm worried about. With all the fuss from my brother, he'd like to keep me locked in my room. I have need of a chaperone for dinner this evening. My family insists this is the only way I may dine with a gentleman." She continued as her eyes pleaded with me. "In his letters, James mentioned he would have another fellow riding with him. He's a mechanic working for a driver's auto company." She paused as though expecting to find an answer on my face. "Would you be willing to join us for dinner this evening at the hotel? It will be a lovely time, and I'm sure Ralph will be a gentleman." I considered this option. Normally, I would decline. I didn't care to meet strange men, and I didn't have high hopes that a good one would appear on a blind date. However, Lydia would still be gone when I returned to my room, and without her company, I would be quite lonely. Remembering the feelings that arose when I saw her dressed as she was that night in men's clothing, I knew it best I should focus those feelings on available men. I could not take the chance of developing any unhealthy associations. Perhaps Ralph would be a perfect gentleman, and he could sway my feelings towards men. I would not have to worry that this man would pester me for courtship and eventually marriage, as he would travel westward in a few days with that race. My heart's desire would be for Amanda to find the promise of a good life with the man of her choice. I could do this for my friend. I knew Amanda wished James would invite her to travel with him on to Chicago. She planned to settle there even if he declined to stay. She expected her chances of finding a husband would increase in a larger town. I didn't know what she expected would happen to Ralph if she joined their journey. I would urge her to consider her options if this were the case. For myself, I would simply enjoy a luxurious dinner at the hotel and hopefully with pleasant company. After agreeing to take part, I invited Amanda to come to my room later that afternoon to prepare ourselves. We could each assist with the other's hair and finishing touches on our dresses. She planned to send a note by messenger telling James to bring his friend and call for us at my lodging at 7. I was feeling lighter, knowing I had plans for the evening. I did not wish to sit and mourn Lydia's departure. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe, comment, question, welcome. Just be nice. Take care.